So let's turn to you've spoken a lot about the 9 dimensions and the different
Mhm.
dimensions of reality. As I've studied over the years in the yogic traditions and the Hindu traditions, they also talk about these levels of dimensions. Can you explain to the audience what those levels of dimensions are?
Of course, there are infinite dimensions,
Yes.
and it's not only nine. 9 dimensions are the ones that we can actually relate to in the aspects of creation.
Mhm.
But then you can have infinite dimensions, like you could possibly imagine. The thing is that a dimension is basically a measurement you go through. It's like you have something and you have different points of view from which you can perceive that something. Like if you have a sphere, you have 360 degrees, so 360 dimensions of that reality.
Mhm.
Um, if you have a tetrahedron, then you have 6 lines and 4 triangles that will shape these 6 dimensions with other 4 dimensions in the shape of trinities.
Mhm.
So you can have infinite amounts of dimensions of something. We tend to confuse dimension with realms, and that's the Christian or Semitic tradition
Mhm.
of thinking we are in the third world, and then there are angels, and then you have archangels, and then you have this thing. So usually we relate dimensions with realms, but it's not the same thing.
Okay.
A dimension is actually different points of view of the same reality. So I usually describe the 9 that are um, the basis of our existence, because we all come from unity. And that unity, in order to exist, needs to express into another one. So it creates a polarity, which is the second dimension. This second dimension is the one that manifests a third point, because these two, when they move, they create a third aspect, which is an axis between these two. So that's the third dimension.
Mhm.
So you have 3 points of view now. And these 3 points of view are moving one around the other. So that creates the fourth dimension, which is time. The fourth dimension then starts to generate energy and light, which is the fifth dimension. Then this shape can change or switch its position, which is the sixth dimension. Then the sixth dimension can transcend and manifest itself into another totally different reality, which is the seventh dimension. And then you have all the infinite possibilities of those changes, which is the toroid or the eighth dimension. And it all comes back to the divine, which is the essence or the very idea of why everything exists, which is the ninth dimension that takes you again to the one. So the ninth dimension actually shaped an hexahedron, which is a cube. So when you have a cube, you actually encode it to that. You have the Merkaba, which is 2 tetrahedrons. If you expand the cube, you have the dodecahedron. If you fractalize the dodecahedron, you have the hexahedron. The icosahedron. And if you go to the core of all the system, you have the octahedron. So basically, the ninth dimension opened the door for the creation of the 5 main solids, the geometry that generates everything in our reality. So that's why I used to describe the 9 point of view of this reality, because everything that exists is based in these 5.
So then let me ask you this. There's so much I've heard, and please correct me, that we living in the 3-dimensional world. Then we're all evolving to a 5th dimension. Is that true, or what's your perspective on that?
We actually don't live in the third dimension going to the 5th dimension.
Yeah.
We perceive the third dimension, and
Mhm.
we are starting to perceive the 5th dimension.
Okay.
So actually, it's not that we are moving from one to another, it's that we are amplifying our point of view. That would be actually the reality. It's not that you are going to leave the third dimension. To leave the third dimension, you have to die.
To watch the full video, click on the link below, and don't forget to subscribe.